It's December, so we all know what time it is. Yep, we're approaching Christmas and the end of the year, but my point is that finally, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be released. It makes sense that a lot of the delays and issues with the anime industry spilled over to the gaming industry, and after delays on top of delays, we're finally getting the much-awaited game. Will it live up to the hype? Who knows? Nonetheless, this calls for a celebration, so for today, we'll be going through some of the top Cyberpunk shows that anime has to offer. This won't be a top 10 list, and I won't be ranking these titles. Instead, I'll be throwing some recommendations your way in case you're up for a bit of sci-fi and cyberpunk to coincide with the game. Let's get off to a fast start then, shall we? Let's take to the futuristic Marduk City, where our first anime Marduk Scramble takes place. Marduk Scrambles, a film series that tells the story of Rune Ballot. The fated encounter that changes her life comes in the form of gambler Shel Septimius. In the dark city where morality is left to rot, she finds herself being abandoned by Shel to die in an explosion. The story could have ended there, but she survives by being transformed into a cyborg. Now she has the means to defend herself in her second life. It's payback time, and Rune finds herself fighting for survival against Shel's machinations to prevent her from testifying against him. Fast, exciting, and with just enough stylish swagger, Marduk Scrambles a series of films that will keep you at the edge of your seats. It has some of the best fight scenes that the previous decade has seen too, and I'll be linking a video where I feature the movie for you to watch after this one. We move on from Marduk City to the city of Lux, a man-made underground city that's seen better days. Lawlessness rules the city worn down from neglect, and that's the main premise behind the next anime, Technolise. When I first encountered this title, I figured that somewhere Rune Ballot would have been able to get at least one sympathizer to her cause. This time, that special person is Ichise, an orphan who works as a prize fighter in the cutthroat city of Lux. Making a living as a fighter isn't easy, which he experiences firsthand as an incident causes him to lose his limbs. However, just like our previous protagonist, Ichise would find himself saved from the jaws of death through the power of science. This time he finds himself working heavily with one of the factions fighting for control over the city, and he encounters Ran, a girl who has the power to see the future. Together, the newly formed duo work together in order to prevent the worst possible ending, a huge faction war that would crush the city for good. This is early 2000s Madhouse in action, and as you can see, some of their style has carried over through the decades. I generally like Madhouse adaptations, and Technolise is no exception. However, I've got to warn you, the series can be rather slow in pace compared to what the premise will make you believe. Nonetheless, it's still a good watch, and I find it quite similar to the next title on the list. While Technolise is a very niche title, Ergo Proxy certainly isn't. So what we've got here is one of the most beloved and complex psychological mysteries that the anime industry has to offer. It says a lot when it stood the test of time and remains quite popular despite 1, not being a mainstream big 3 shonen, and 2, not being a childhood anime fondly remembered by the people entering the age of 30 now. Ergo Proxy takes us to the post-apocalyptic world where the last of humanity have taken refuge in the city of Romdo. While there are no titans to keep people inside the cities, the planet outside is just as uninhabitable. Thus, humanity has adapted to life with humanoid robots called auto-revs. Of course, things go horribly wrong, and these robots contract a virus that gives them self-awareness. Riel Meyer gets the job of investigating the phenomenon with her partner Iggy. As we can all predict, one answer leads to more questions, and Riel must work together with uneasy allies in order to fully uncover truths behind the city. Ergo Proxy has stood the test of time by mainly being such a pleasant psychological experience. It had its fair share of action, but the main meat of the series comes in the mystery and how it keeps the viewers engaged. It's full of intrigue, and I feel that I should put this series as one of my top recommendations in this genre. The second movie that we're tackling probably needs no introduction. Any anime history enthusiast would have likely heard of the name Akira by now. Largely credited as the anime that helped the medium break out in the West, Akira is set in a freshly recovered Tokyo. After its destruction, Tokyo went through a long road to recovery, and in its current state, it's a perfect place to fester unruliness in the form of terrorism and gang wars. One such victim of this violence is Tetsuo, a boy who also happens to have psychic powers. His powers awaken at the worst possible time, and the unleashed boy begins his rampage across Neo-Tokyo. Akira tells the story of Kaneda, who gets assigned to stop that friend of his from destroying Neo-Tokyo for good. Being a pioneer of the medium with such a legacy, it's not surprising that Akira gets so much good press. However, on a personal note, I think that those accolades are well deserved. Given the context, it's a very ambitious project, and it has aged well even to the present day. If you're really curious as to why Akira is so good, you need to find it on your favorite streaming platform and give it a watch. Believe it or not, there was once a time when the internet was this dark, scary place full of intrigue and mystery. It represented the depths of cyberspace and an untapped potential for humanity, and such thoughts can be seen in the anime Serial Experiments Lain. Serial Experiments Lain isn't an easy show to digest, even now. Despite really showing its age with its interpretation of the World Wide Web, it still features a lot of creepy themes that can still hit close to home today. For one, the impetus that starts the story off is a suicide that apparently came out of nowhere. No one can really tell what prompted Chisa to commit suicide, but several days after her death, her friends soon receive hair-raising emails, supposedly from the dead girl herself. Apparently, instead of just dying, she's abandoned her body to become an existence within the wired. Our protagonist, Lane, finds herself thrust into the world after opening the email, and she starts encountering surreal things one after another. Strange messages and the Men in Black are just the tip of the iceberg in this mind screw of an anime that tackles the blurring boundary between reality and cyberspace. Now, as we've moved on decades past the millennium, such ideas of the internet seem a bit foreign. After all, the internet is where we meet friends, where we do fun activities, make ourselves famous, all of that sort of stuff. To have it looked at with such a dark lens truly paints Lane as a complete opposite to the sci-fi anime of today, and just for that different perspective, it's definitely worth looking at. As we approach the end of the list, we go to probably one of the franchises most synonymous with the word cyberpunk, Ghost in the Shell. A series so synonymous with sci-fi and cyberpunk and so popular to have spawned a Hollywood movie? Count me in. But I'm not here to rag about Western live-action adaptations of anime. There's another video for that on my other channel. For now, let's take a look at the actual anime series Ghost in the Shell. Our story now heads to a place where humanity and machines have practically become one. Humans have long sought for power, and with the help of technology, they finally reach that apex. However, such power falling into the wrong hands can lead to trouble, and it's up to Section 9, a special police unit, to deal with these crimes. The team does the job with much success. That is until the emergence of a new hacker named the Laughing Man. This new opponent proves to be a formidable foe, throwing the team into disarray and opening the gates to a cat and mouse game between him and the team all over Japan. How much did people love Ghost in the Shell? Enough for it to get a new anime project, it seems. Motoko lives on in 2020, and back in the 90s, I didn't expect to hear myself saying that 20 years down the line. Keep in mind that Ghost in the Shell has different timelines, but I'd recommend you go and watch the original 1995 movie and then go to standalone Complex before you get into other things. I don't think that a lot of cyberpunk shows deserve having more material that long into its run, and I guess that it's just a testament to the mark that this series has left on the anime world as a whole. However, the cyberpunk anime that hits closest to home, especially in modern days, has got to be Psychopass. I'm not sure I'd call this the top masterpiece of the Uro Butcher when Fate Zero and Madoka both exist, but as far as being socially relevant to the life that we have, none of its works can come close to Psychopass. In a dystopian world, law and order reign supreme, or so it seems. Then again, what could escape the Sibyl system, the most objective and top-notch way of determining each citizen's threat level and their tendency towards crime? It also helps inspectors and enforcers uphold justice, the latter mostly through less glamorous means. However, what if the Sibyl system ends up being flawed? flawed? What if there's something that technology can't determine within the heart of a person? What if the actual bad guys learn to circumvent the Sibyl system? Such mysteries are faced head-on by Akane Tsunemori and her enforcer partner Shinya Kogami. A dystopian society where surveillance is king seemed to be a far-fetched nightmare when this aired, but looking at the world in 2020, it slowly creates an uncomfortable image of a possible future. Just how much can we put our trust in authority and these objective standards in determining our true selves when that time comes? Psychopass aims to answer these questions and thus is met with much controversy. On my end though, that's also a big reason why I think it's a must-watch if you're up for some cyberpunk shows. Philosophical elements aside, the show's also extremely pretty with its great fight scenes, sleek animation and character design, and sound direction. That ends our list of cyberpunk anime, and let's give a round of applause to these shows that help push the boundaries of sci-fi in anime. If you were to rank them according to how you like them, how would you do it? I'll be eagerly awaiting your answers. Did you enjoy this video? It always makes me happy if you enjoy my videos. You can let me know that you liked the video by hitting that thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. With that, I'm closing this video, and I'll see you next time.